Welcome, everybody. My name is Larissa Duncan. I'm a reference librarian at the Cambria County Library, and this is the last of our book talk series with the Johnstown Symphony Orchestra. And this evening, our our presenter is Lauren Palmar. But before she comes on, I would like to introduce you to Jessica Satava. She is the executive director of the Johnstown Symphony, and she's going to say a few words about the symphony and about some upcoming events. So, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Larissa, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here tonight. It's really nice, isn't it, to just be able to kind of hang out at home on a rainy evening and perhaps drink the cocktail that Lauren so graciously recommended for all of us tonight. I know I'm enjoying mine. Look, she's got hers. Oh, hers is prettier than mine. Oh my goodness. I wore my glasses because it makes me look more bookish. But setting all of that aside, as the executive director of the Johnstown Symphony, I've been very fortunate to get to know some very inspiring leaders in our community. And one of my favorites is Lauren Palmar. I'm very fortunate to have her as a new member of our team at the JSO. She is a proven fundraiser. She works for Aspire Grants Development. She has a fabulous career in development, and we're so fortunate to benefit from her expertise at the JSO. And right about now, we're so excited. We have a lot of things coming up. So I wanted to just share a couple of them with you. We're doing live music again, guys. It's so exciting. So the weekend of Mother's Day, we have a couple of concerts presented by our Principal Woodwind Quartet. And so they're going to be playing on the evening before Mother's Day and then on Mother's Day itself in Westmont and then in Somerset County. So that's going to be a fun opportunity for us to see our JSO players, get to know them a little bit better right in our neighborhood. So you don't have to go all the way up to PPAC. You can go to a neighborhood location and hear their fabulous artistry. Then on May 22nd, we have our very unique fundraiser coming up. It's called the JSO Presents A Journey Through Johnstown, and you get the option to walk, run, or bike and experience music at stops all along the way. And then that evening at 6 o'clock, we'll be presenting a concert, The Four Seasons, featuring our concertmaster, Maureen Conlon-Gutierrez, and that concert's going to be spectacular. So May 22nd, is a big day for the JSO. Tickets are available at johnstownsymphony.org. And we are really excited too about a couple of other things we're working on. So we'll have more announcements coming up very soon. But without further ado, I want to hand the mic over to our fabulous Lauren, who's going to walk us through this experience. Lauren, thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for having me. Can you hear me? Awesome. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Larissa and Jessica for allowing me to be here tonight. Like she said, I hope you all have your wine spritzers in hand and are, ready to sort of think deeply and talk about one of life's greatest attributes, which would be, in my opinion, the love we receive, and more importantly, the love that we give to others. So I'm so excited to be able to share this Love Letters of Great Men with you guys. I chose this book, or I guess I should say collection of love letters for the talk, as this past year has been, I'm sure as we can all agree, pretty tumultuous. And as we live in a modern day world with constant chaos, sometimes it's important to pause and just remember how much love is still left in this world. And as Jessica mentioned, I am a professional grant writer. So because of that, language has always been very intriguing to me. Just the way we're able to communicate with one another through the art of language, it's always piqued my interest, and in my opinion, allows you to really see the firsthand perspective of others. On a personal level, I feel that I must point out that my attraction to language most likely stems from watching my older brother converse with others. He really is the type of person who's never met a stranger and is able to connect with people deeper than the surface level just in an initial conversation. And I've really always admired that about him and the way that he uses his words to connect with others on a social and emotional level. So as we dive in tonight, I just hope that you can take away a few key attributes from the letters that we discuss, specifically in communicating through love and kindness with others, whether that be our families, friends, or strangers in our everyday life. The book talk tonight is going to be a little different in nature, as instead of analyzing the letters written, I'm going to ask that you instead focus on the feelings that these letters evoke as you hear them read out loud tonight. And instead of ending in the typical Q&A session, I figured that I would ask some open-ended questions immediately after reading. So I implore you to really internalize the feelings that these letters evoke. And if you have any thoughts, please share them with the rest of the audience here with us tonight. So with that being said, for as long as humans have been on this planet, we've invented forms of communication, whether that was smoke signals or messenger pigeons, and now to the telephone and email, that have constantly evolved how we interact with one another. And one of the biggest developments in communication actually came in the 1800s when the electric telegraph was invented. So while post existed at this time, and that's what we're going to be referencing tonight, it was really the 19th century that had the revolutionary impact on how we communicate today. Now, digital methods, in my opinion, have superseded all other forms of communication lately, especially in business and personal relationships. And I personally can't remember the last time I handwrote a letter rather than sent an email or a text to talk to somebody, whether they're, in business or in a personal friendship. So we're living in a time when cell phones and other technological gadgets are considered a dire necessity. Students, parents, grandparents alike have all subscribed to today's technology-driven culture. And it has been noticed that the younger generations often suffer from withdrawal when separated from their phones or tablets for any length of time. So living in the technology-filled world we have today, it's kind of hard to look back and think about when, cell phones didn't even exist and texting wasn't even an option. However, I think we can all agree that the art of letter writing has been around for as long as the pen and the paper. So one of my favorite authors, Mark Twain, wrote in the introduction to his biography that the frankest and freest product of the human mind and heart is a love letter. So a love letter is obviously an expression of love in written form, and however delivered, the letter may be anything from short and simple or a lengthy explanation or description of feelings. And before the development of widespread telecommunications, letters were one of the few ways for distant couples to remain in constant contact, particularly in wartime. The strains on either end of a relationship could intensify the emotion and really lead these letters to go beyond simple communications to expressions of love, longing, desires, etc. It really is claimed that the very act of writing a love letter, just the act of it, can trigger feelings of love in the person who's writing the letter. And I think it's important to know, and crazy when I figured this out, humans have witnessed more technological advancements within the last 2 decades than in the past 1,000 years. Let that sink in. So we have really, really evolved lately, even just in, like I said, these past 2 decades. And in today's hyper-focused world where information is readily available and accessible at one's fingertips, it's kind of hard to imagine how people lived in the early 20th century. Profits of corporations have surged and the overall living standards for our general population have improved since love letters. But innovations occur, while they occur to make our lives easier, it's kind of shifted this overwhelming need for our constant human connection, but it's not really human connection anymore. So let me preface this. I have to be honest, I probably don't read as much as I should. But when I do pick up a piece of literature or a group of poems, I always tend to walk away feeling like I've learned something new, or at least changed a perspective through the art of language. So when I read, it tends to stick with me more than any other form of learning, if you will. And I feel reading out loud really allows those words to be brought to life. So British author and artist Nick Bantock has a famous quote that I love, in which he says, "Letter writing is an excellent way of slowing down this lunatic universe long enough to gather one's thoughts." So keeping this in mind, this evening as we read a couple of the love letters, I ask that you focus less on the literal interpretation of the written word, and most so on the feeling that the words induce. I'm going to use the love letters of great men to emphasize the importance of communication with one another, and how love can be delivered via kindness with our interactions with strangers and those we care for. So I was actually going to do a musical pairing with the love letters that I chose tonight, but in our sound check, it sort of came back muffled. So instead, I'm just going to read them with no background noise. But we'll begin with a letter written by Robert Herrick titled To Athena. Herrick was born in 1591. and was heavily influenced by classical Roman poetry and wrote typically on pastoral themes dealing mostly with English country life and village customs. So I thought that was pretty spot on for the country environment that we live here in Johnstown. So with that, To Athena by Robert Herrick. Bid me to live, and I will live, thy protestant to be, or bid me love, and I will give a loving heart to thee, a heart as soft, a heart as kind, a heart as sound and free, as in the whole world thou canst find, that heart I'll give to thee. Bid that heart stay, and it will stay, to honor thy decrees, or bid it languish quite away, and shalt do thou for thee. Bid me to weep, and I will weep, while I have eyes to see, and having none, yet I will keep a heart to weep for thee. Bid me despair, and I'll despair under that cypress tree, or bid me die, and I will dare e'en death to die for thee. Though my art, my life, my love, my heart, the very eyes of me, and hast command of every part to live and die for thee. So I would like to open it up to audience participation and really ask how those words made you feel and if a certain part of that short love letter resonated with you most. I think there's a way for you guys to chime in, but if not, I guess let me know.
You can unmute yourself, or you can write something in the chat. And I think we all can see that.
If we don't have anyone who has any suggestions, that's fine.
Lauren, we missed who the author was.
Oh, Robert Herrick.
Lauren, I have a comment.
Yeah, of course.
Every time I watch Jane Austen movies or, of that era, it strikes me how limited our vocabulary is nowadays. And it's getting worse because we don't search for words. And one of the things that people comment on me particularly is that I use words like you said, tumultuous, or, words that people don't use every day. And I think it's part because it's not my first language, but also because of reading. So you read and you go, oh, crepuscule, instead of sunset, or anyway. So when you read that, it just makes me think of how poor our everyday language is. Mm-hmm. That was beautiful.
I absolutely agree with you. And, when you think about email or text communication, you think about how, we'll send on my way, or even shorten that to OMW. I feel like the art of language has really been lost in the convenience of communication today.
I understand what you're saying. And I remember, this is Crystal, by the way, doing a paper in my sociology class about the language that my daughter used to use with me. So it's really refreshing that you as a young person are like really interested in this, because I remember one day she came home and I told her something very, very funny after school, and she looked at me deadpan face and said, LOL. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, you have lost the ability to actually laugh out loud, right? So yeah, this is wonderful.
I love that. Yep, great story. And yes, I agree. It's definitely interesting that in the times of these letters, that was the only way they were able to communicate. And now today you can talk to anybody at the touch of a button. Do we have any other comments from the group?
Over to the table.
Hey, Belle, it's your mom.
Hey, Mom.
Hi. What I wanted to say is the same thing with communication. I have an acquaintance that we don't see each other often, but we do things for each other. She is my dog walker. And so I'm very grateful for what she does for us. and she has her PhD in English. And some of the notes that she has written to me in gratitude for the things that, we have done for each other, I actually have them all saved together, and they're on my refrigerator, and I read them because the written word is so lost today. And just to read someone's words that really, really, really know how to communicate and write, and they can really put their feelings into words, no matter how short or long it is really special. And I think that, a lot of that has been lost along the way as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. And now, as I get older, I see why you made me write all those handwritten thank you letters as a kid that I absolutely despised. But now that I've, matured and gotten older and really can harness the power of language, I totally see the importance behind something like that. So thanks, Mom. All right. So I guess if everybody is agreed, we can move on from sort of that feeling of just human and emotional connection. And I'd like to switch gears from that to sort of the love and that we show strangers through kindness. So when you look at the dictionary, kindness is defined as the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. And other synonyms of kindness are goodwill, warmth, tenderness, selflessness, benevolence, things like that. Yet, in my opinion, none of those terms truly convey the significance and complexity of the word. So what is kindness? Well, like I said, Mark Twain was one of my favorite authors. So according to him, kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And what he's trying to tell us is that kindness is universal. It traverses boundaries, finding common ground in differences. But again, does this truly define kindness? In a way, yes, but it's only really one facet of being kind. Another inspirational figure who actually attempted to untangle the complexity of the ideas of kindness is the Dalai Lama. He says, "This is my simple religion. There is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart is our temple, and the philosophy is kindness." So in my opinion, there are two different ways to think about kindness. You can think about it as a fixed trait, either you have it or you don't, or you can think about kindness as a muscle. And in people, that muscle can naturally be stronger than others, but it can grow stronger through exercise. So where would one start? Well, knowing that the divine permanence is what separates love associated with things and the love between human beings, how do we really get to that place of seeing that assumption when we say, I love you or I care for you? And the answer seems to be found in vulnerability. Breen Brown, a professor at the University of Houston for the Graduate School of Social Work, she wrote a book called Daring Greatly, and I definitely recommend it. But she says, waking up every day and loving someone who may not love us back, whose safety we can't ensure, who may stay in our lives or may leave in a moment's notice, that's vulnerability. So vulnerability at its core is uncertainty, risk, emotional exposure, and there is no question that that's difficult. Vulnerability is scary. And if love is not vulnerable, I mean, what is it? It's tremendously vulnerable. There's no potential really for love without that vulnerability. So in doing my research for this book talk, a great deal of evidence showed that the more someone receives or witnesses kindness, the more they will be kind themselves, which tends to lead to upward spirals of love and generosity in our relationships with others. And I think it's very important to note that being kind in general should not be reserved for only others. You need to be kind to yourself because you and me and everybody else, we all deserve kindness. I implore you to treat yourself that you would treat anybody else. Don't criticize yourself and instead offer yourself kind words every single day. I mean, you can't give, in my opinion, what you don't have. So the same is true with kindness. You can't truly be kind to others if you're not kind to yourself. So this next poem actually talks about the act of kindness in love being patient, unwavering. It was written by William Blake, who was born in 1757, and it's titled The Clod and the Pebble. William Blake started writing poetry at just 14 years old. He was a nonconformist, which I love, who associated with some of the leading radical thinkers of his day. And he wanted his poetry to be understood by the common people to maximize the reach of genuine expression in a time where literature was considered to be elitist. I thought it was really cute when I was doing my research on him that in 1782 he married a woman who happened to be illiterate named Catherine, and he taught her to read and write, and she is actually the one who went on to publish his poems. So I can't really just help but think that, you know, the words that he wrote were inspired by her. So with that, I will go ahead and read to you The Clod and the Pebble. The Clod and the Pebble by William Blake. Love seeketh not itself to please, nor for itself have any care, but for another gives its ease, and builds a heaven in hell's despair. So sang a little clod of clay, trodden with the cattle's feet, but a pebble of the brook warbled out these meters meet. Love seeketh only self to please, to bind another in its delight, joys in the loss of another's ease, and builds a hell in heaven's despite. So I would like to open it up to audience participation again. If anything really resonated with you on that one, I would love to know how it made you feel. And what about leading with love do you think we could learn from this letter? As a reminder, if you'd like to contribute, you must hit unmute, or you can use the chat function.
Lauren?
Hi.
Hello? Hi. Comment. The first time I read a poem by Billy Collins, the U.S. Poet Laureate. You know how every year they get a poet laureate. He was a woman this year. Oh yeah, she spoke at the Biden opening. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
His poem was about soap. I'm like, hello, what can you say about soap? And it is one of the most fantastic poems I've ever read. And your poem reminded me a little bit of it, like just a simple thing of everyday, a pebble, or
Yep.
was a clod. Okay. I don't know. It reminded me of the soap poem by Billy Collins.
Yeah, I mean, this poem is one of my favorites because it really discusses like the aspect of taking something so small and granular, like a clod of dirt, being hit by a pebble and totally, transforming the future. And I think it's an interesting metaphor that he uses at the end, like with heaven and hell, and saying that it builds a heaven and hell's despair. And I don't know, I agree. It really does like take you, it grounds you, I feel like.
Yeah, so Lauren, you do the next poem because me personally, it's taking me a minute to digest the words, but you have already read the words, so you've already digested them.
Yeah,
so,
yep.
Right, so maybe like reading it and then like giving us your view on kind of how you feel about it would prompt a little bit about how we feel. Like, yeah, Molly got it. I didn't for a second. I was like, wait a minute, I don't understand what's happening right now, which sounds kind of silly, but yeah, I didn't get it because I've never read the poem, right?
Yep, no, totally fair. Yeah, for the next poem, I'll absolutely do that. So that's a great suggestion. I guess I can go ahead and, like I said, it's one of my favorites because it takes something granular. It really internalizes that metaphor of building a heaven in the midst of a hell, which I think we can all agree with this past pandemic, that love has really gotten us through some difficult times. And it's crazy to me that a poem written in, gosh, when did he write this? A poem written in 1757 can still ring very true today with just how different our culture and lifestyle is.
Right. Exactly. Good job, girl.
Thanks.
Hey, Lauren, it's Laura.
Hi.
So I just wanted to comment. I'd never read this poem, and I looked it up because it took me a little bit to digest it, like, was just said. So when I looked it up and I'm looking at this, and what I had heard in your tie-in with Brene Brown is, kindness is learned in love. It's like this ripple effect, like the kindness is learned and other people see that in you. Same, I think that's what this poem, to me, that's what that said to me. And that in whatever state that you're in, that love that you feel is certainly going to be shown, and whatever, hell everyone is going through, you see that general love that's really kind of going to put that in a separate place. Does that, you know what I mean? That's what it said to me.
Yep, thank you for that.
Poem.
Yes, I agree. I think it just shows that even in dark times, love is going to be the prevailing effect. And it is bizarre because I don't think we as a society talk about love enough, right? It's passive, it's something we all experience, but it's very rarely analyzed and sort of thought about how we give our everyday love to our fellow humans. And so I'm hoping this conversation can just sort of help us talk about that, and spark that initial conversation, because it's something we all experience and go through and lose and gain. And so thank you for that, Laura. I agree. All right. So for our final love letter, I have chosen to highlight the why of love, really why we as humans are inclined to connect and love one another. It's a universal phenomenon, but scientists have long struggled to pin down the biological foundations of love. So from the scientific perspective, love within a pair bond is clearly an evolved product of high levels of parental investment in humans. It's marked by psychological processes such as passion and intimacy, and can also be like increased levels of serotonin, oxytocin, nervous system arousal, especially when in proximity to someone you love. And love is really what motivates us to be near our partners, to be kind to our partners, and to stay with our partners, to be quite frank. And love evolved to provide the emotional framework for maintaining certain pair bonds, whether that's a relationship or a friendship. So when you find yourself in discussions about whether love is real or not, I would say from the evolutionary perspective, the answer is absolutely yes. Though our openness to different types of love has expanded, it seems like love today can kind of be like a YouTube video where you just skip the parts that are boring and get to the best part. And to be quite frank, divorce rates are higher than ever before in history, and marriage just doesn't seem like that spiritually binding contract between two humans who are addicted to one another anymore. What I do believe, there are certain factors that contribute to today's society of love, and technology really gives us that ability to contact anyone at any time, no matter the distance. Modern day technology is full of different apps and avenues to help us stay connected. And when once it took years for us to cross continents, now it takes merely hours on a plane. We used to have the days of snail mail, and now we have instant messaging and texting. And so that ability to contact anyone at any time, anywhere, can sort of lead one to wonder, well, is all this technology helpful or detrimental to love in the modern day? And in my opinion, technology has not really lessened love, but rather altered the way we express and share it. Technology really is the heart of our society today. I mean, you and I are conversing over technology right now, and it's really evolved our way of expressing ourselves through, social media, blogs, etc. It's clear to always, to see and point out the bad of technology in society, but at the end of the day, I think it's important to take a step back and look at all the good, such as what we're doing right now. So this final love letter, and I'm going to take your comments and sort of talk about it after and then open it up for discussion. But this final letter explains the innate love that we feel for others. And really that there is no if or why we love, there is only how we love. And so this letter was written by the Australian poet Christopher Brennan. He was born in 1870, and his highly personal verses were actually never popular with the public. But critics have him highly regarded for his vitality and sincerity. So I thought it might be a good one to share tonight. So with that, I give you the poem, Because She Asked Me Why I Love Her by Christopher Brennan. If questioning would make us wise, no eyes would ever gaze in eyes. If all our tale were told through speech, no mouths would wander each to each. Were spirits free from mortal mesh, and love not bound in hearts of flesh, no aching breasts would yearn to meet and find their ecstasy complete. For who is there that lives and knows the secret power by which it grows? Were knowledge all, what were our needs, to thrill and faint and sweetly bleed? Then seeketh sweetness the if and why. I love you now until I die, for I must love because I live, and life in me is what you give. So for me, that poem really reinforces that love will always prevail, even in such dark or uncertain times, and that there really isn't an if or a why, because it's only how. There is no if or why. We're humans, we're innately built to love one another. So it's how we show that love that's really going to communicate to others and bond those relationships, whether that be at work, in your personal life, or even with a stranger passing on the street. That, in my opinion, speaks volumes when finding a silver lining in even the most tragic situations. And as we move forward with our busy and daily lives, I really challenge you to just be kind, thoughtful, and open with your language. It really is a tool used to communicate and connect and relate, and we need human connection and kindness now more than ever. Would anyone like to share their thoughts?
Well, we did listen to that last one, and what we say here is that in all of the poems that you read, there's really no gender in them all. So you never know who's talking to who. It could be mother to child, brother to sister, woman to woman, man to woman, whatever it is, it could be anything. And you don't know that because love really knows no boundaries. It knows no gender. It knows no color, no any of that. And it just, when people love, they love. It doesn't matter who, what, where, or when. They just love. And they can't help what they feel. And that's just how it is. And I think it's unconditional and it's beautiful.
Thanks, Mom. That's very poignant. Yeah, I didn't even, the book is titled Love Letters of Great Men, so I think I let that cloud my ability to see that cross-gender, cross-age, cross-generational connection that you just made. So thank you for that.
I think that last line you read, that poem, was really a powerful line. I thought it was a beautiful line.
Thank you. To repeat it is, for I must love because I live, and life in me is what you give.
Yeah, which, without love, what are we? If you don't feel love from someone, that's going to show in who you are as a person and how you communicate and speak and treat other people. So that resonated the most.
Thank you, Laura.
Lauren, I guess I was really struck in all of these poems by the courage that it takes to express these things so publicly. Okay, so the first letter, probably that person didn't anticipate that we would all be reading it hundreds of years later. But the rest of these things, talk about daring greatly, talk about being vulnerable, like putting those huge feelings out into the universe is just, I have so much admiration for the courage that takes. It's so
agree.
beautiful.
And I feel like we still today have grand gestures, right? But they're never as, you don't think of a love letter as a grand gesture, right? It's something more private or personal, when really it should be a grand gesture, a testament of love and a testament to your inner feelings for somebody. So I absolutely agree. Thank you for that, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with you, Laura. The last two lines of that are just spectacular.
I wanted two things. One trivial. Can you see my book? Our camera's off. Our camera's off. Anyway, it's called Love Letters of Great Men and Women from the 18th Century to Present Day. And the reason I have this book is because I was watching Sex and the City, the movie.
Yeah.
When Mr. Big, doesn't show up for the wedding, and the most terrible scene of airplanes, and I've seen it 10 times, and I still cry when she bangs the flowers on his head. And we're
You and me
like,
both.
no. Oh my God, I cry every time. Anyway, so I bought the book because he gets the book and writes every single letter to her. And it is the most romantic and beautiful gesture. Second, I would like to propose, inspired by you, that we all write someone a letter on the first of every month. It doesn't have to be a huge letter, it doesn't have to be a poem, but you just put it to writing. You know how fun it is to get mail? It is like, oh my God, a letter, a post stamp. So that's
I love that idea. I think that would be such a really great way of like just internalizing. And we're all so busy, right? So when is the last time you really sat down for even 5 minutes and just thought about your feelings towards someone, whether that be friendship, a mentor, your parents, you know? So I love that idea, Molly.
And the last time that I actually wrote something, my hand hurt because we don't write anymore. You know, my hand was like cramping, like, ow, ow.
Yes, I agree. We got to work those muscles.
I love that idea of writing letters. Oh my gosh, that's such a good idea, Molly.
But you look, you know, smart, beautiful. We're so lucky to have you in this community and as a friend, seriously. Great job. I'm clapping.
Thank you. I mean, I was really excited to be able to do this tonight, and I would really like to thank all of you guys, you know, my friends, family, and just supporters of the symphony and the library for your time this evening, especially Jessica and Larissa for allowing me to be here. So with that, I would like to open up the forum to any last comments, realizations, or contributions, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and finish your glass of wine, and happy Thursday.
Thank you, Lauren. This is Larissa. And I just really enjoyed this so much because I do love poetry, and it is National Poetry Month. And so
I didn't even know that. I love that.
yeah. And today is actually, it's a Poem in Your Pocket Day. So this is most appropriate. And thank you. And I appreciate it. The library appreciates it. And yeah, if anybody has any other questions or comments, we have plenty of time.
Oh, I would like to say something too, because I've been writing poetry since college. And when UPJ did the Let's Find Johnstown's Poet Laureate, I submitted a poem, and I did not know at the time that it had to be about Johnstown. So I submitted a poem about my anger, and it was actually, it didn't win, but it won honorable mention. And then I got an email saying that it was going to be on a place that I have not been, but we should all be aware of, called Stanza in Blue. Does anybody know what that is and where it is? So this Asa Ana, the one that organized this whole poetry thing, has an Airbnb called Stanza, which means room in Italian, in blue. And the whole room is blue. Every single thing in that room is blue. And it's beautiful. It's on Facebook. And I believe it's also Billy Collins' poem. And she did the room to honor this poem that she loves. And I think it's called Lines or Circles. And it's a beautiful little room. You rent it for $100 a night. And it's in Johnstown. And we have like some of the coolest things, and nobody knows. I've been here 20 some years and I had no idea until that poem got picked up by Stanza in Blue. So I urge you all to continue to support these people that have the wonderful original ideas and so creative as to do these little things in our little rural town. Thank you, Lauren. You were awesome. Beautiful job.
No, thank you, Molly. And I agree. You know, I implore you to get out there and explore. And I'm new to the area, so I'm still learning and exploring. And you know, just the connections I've already made with the symphony and the library speak volumes. So as Molly said, please support. And I again, thank you guys all for being here tonight. And as Molly said, I invite you to write your love letters, you know, send us an email, post on the Facebook, let us know if that's something you're deciding to do, and just let us know how it lifts other people's days, because I'm 99.99% sure whoever you write a letter to will smile.
And if anyone is interested in checking out Stanza in Blue, I put the link in the chat for you to check it out. I've been there and it is phenomenal. So.
Thank you, Jessica, for doing that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's super. Yeah, keep the ball rolling.
Okay, well, does anyone have any other questions or comments? No? Okay, well, I'd just like to say that this meeting is also being recorded, and we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel, on the library YouTube channel. So in case anyone you know couldn't get on, or maybe they wanted to watch it later, you can look for that maybe probably next week. And then, you can watch it and share it, and you can see it there. So thank you again so much, Lauren. I appreciate it so much, and the library is so happy to have you.
No, please. I appreciate you guys for having me, and I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.